Hi, everybody. I'm here today with international recording artist, singer, and producer, Deena Theodora. I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm so lucky to know you. Every single time that we have crossed paths, you've always been such a being of love. And I'll never forget the time that you actually made sure after a concert that you ran outside and made sure I got into the taxi, which I'll never forget.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Warren. You're an inspiration to all, and I think it's a great time to come together and do this video and help inspire others and just be a part of this.
I'm really great that we're just having these conversations with different artists and everything. And there's such a big artist community out there. And I think like just to hear people's stories and to have a conversation is just very special.
Absolutely. I think from all over Toronto and the GTA and the world, really. I mean, we can connect to so many people just being here live on virtual platform that we can speak to so many.
So I'm curious to know if you had a superpower, anything in the world, what would it be and why?
That's a beautiful question. There's so many times that runs through my mind. Oh, I wish I could just fly. I can bring others to fly with me, kind of thing. And it's funny. I have dreams of me flying up in the air and just circling. But I think at this point in time, I would say superpower would be to heal people, loved ones, friends. My father's in the hospital now. One of the powers would be to heal, but I know that more than anything, we have the ability to have the power to heal through art, through creative avenues, and through music. So I can imagine that we can touch people and heal them in that way. But definitely, it would be to heal people.
I love it. I actually have goosebumps right now because that is what my answer is always. It's sort of like Wolverine, but for other people, right?
Yes.
To be able to heal others, but also to be able to handle it, right? Because if you have that power what's the expression? Comes great responsibility.
Yes, with great power comes great responsibility. I always remember that from Spider-Man.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if we had that power, then I would also ask that we be able to handle it.
It's one thing to know that you have the power in you to touch people's lives and to help others along their journey, whatever they're dealing with or struggling with. But it's another thing to actually implement that and to actually see people that respond to, the art and the music and just you being you, to touch people in that way.
Like we can ask for things that we want in our lives.
Yes.
But I always suggest that we also ask for the ability to handle all that rain, all that blessing that we're asking for, because sometimes it feels overwhelming. And then like the universe or God is like, but you asked for it. So it's like you need to be able to handle all of that. That's why when somebody wins a lottery, it's too much sometimes for them to handle.
They don't know what to do with all the money or with everything that they won. And I mean, that goes to say with anyone in when it comes to artists or athletes, anyone that gets, so much wealth or success at one point, how to channel that in the right avenues and use it for good.
And how would one do that?
We're talking of artists or athletes or anyone to that extent, that when they receive, whether it's monetary value or not, how to be able to reach out and help others with, all that they've done. I think even just at the basic level of just reaching out to, they say charity starts from the home. So reaching out to the people closest to you and starting from there.
I agree with you 100%. That's a good example. What would be a charity close to your heart?
Well, I actually right now between my podcast, Empowering Women and Girls, and Cam H with mental health is also very important to me as well. But again, charity right now is starting from within my family. Just being there for my father who's in the hospital and spending as much time as I can with him, and just being strong for my mother and all of my family. There's 5 of us, 5 kids. I'm the second of 5, so just being there right now at this difficult time means the world.
Do you find that sometimes it's not hard, it's not easy for you to be as strong as you want to be?
All the time, and I think it's, that's for me where I find it's a matter of just really grounding myself to my roots and to remembering, how I was raised, and just, starting from that love, the love that came from my family. It wasn't always roses, growing up has been challenging, coming from a lower to middle class family and struggling with so many things. But I think coming around and just being there and spending the time and giving back that love that was given to me is crucial.
It's very special that you have that mentality and that you're heart driven in that way. Like, I've always seen that about you. It's like you always lead with your heart. And I'm sure it's not always easy. I can speak from experience as well. It's like we want to be that superhero sometimes, and we want to give and we want to lead from our hearts. But sometimes it's not easy holding up the walls. And like, even Batman needs an Alfred, right?
That's right. It's so funny. Some of the strongest of us can be at times, so challenged. And in terms of, life throws all kinds of curveballs. But, it's not what gets you down. It's just getting back up and keeping going and not giving up.
And have you experienced that when you're in your creative mode, when you're creating music or performing, that you feel like giving up sometimes or having those struggles?
Growing up, there's been times where, those thoughts come to my mind. The capacity that, that we hold as artists, it can be challenging because we're sensitive beings, right? So, I know for myself, not allowing everything to impact in such a negative way, or I was going to talk about this a bit later, but not listening to all the voices in your head, because not all the voices are real. For me, what helps is eliminating, the ants, automatic negative thoughts. And I think that we all get them. As human beings, we're set biologically, fight or flight, and we're bombarded constantly with challenges and stress and commotion all around, right? But it's just finding that zone to just, what I do is that, I try to just, I like what you used, how you just put your music on and you just zone into that sacred space that you have between your creator, the universe, and yourself.
I get in arguments with those voices in my head sometimes.
You're not alone. We all do. Just about knowing how to know which ones are real and which ones serve us and which ones don't. And that has been a lifelong journey, like a lesson for me. And I still, struggle with it, coming from Ottawa 10 years ago, being in Toronto, surrounding yourself with, at least a handful of strong-minded, positive-minded, uplifting, and positive people. It will make or break someone. It's really in your surroundings, right? We can listen to certain things or choose not to. And I think that it's your environment that really impacts those thoughts that come in. And sometimes just being by yourself and allowing certain things to come in that just don't serve you, and knowing what you allow into your mind and not.
Yeah, one of the meditation practices that I've learned is to see your thoughts as passing cars on the freeway. You watch it from a window. When I was a kid, I used to sit in my grandmother's house and just watch the cars go back and forth. So whenever I think about that, is like, I can't control those cars. I can watch them. Maybe maybe I won't like some of them. Maybe I don't like the color of that car, but that's what's happening and that's what it is, right?
And I like that analogy. I actually, a long time ago when I was very young, I remember I was I was in a session with a therapist at the time, and he was mentioning to me that, your thoughts are all, it's like you said, the car's going by, and then you have the rear view mirror, and that rear view mirror is there to ultimately give you a glance, at things that might come up, but you can't keep staring at that rear view mirror because you're going to crash. So you're aware of it, but you can't stick to it.
I love it. It's like an add-on to that other analogy. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Can't drive like that.
No, you can't, right? You're going to smash into everyone. So, you have the ability to glance back and forth, but you can't get caught up in that, right? And so that goes to say with being in the present and grounding yourself and not looking behind you, but keeping yourself grounded in the present, like how we are now in the present. We're having a lovely talk. We're not focused on anything behind us or in front. We're just here and now. And there's a great book, The Power of Now, just focusing on that. And I mean, not just as artists, but as just everyone. I think we just get caught up in thinking so many things of past and future, and we just forget to just enjoy right here and now. So,
and I'm sure when you're on the stage performing, that's exactly where you're at.
You're just, it's that element of that moment in time that you just want to savor and cherish, and just put forth your best, right? So when you're speaking, you're doing what you do best in inspiring others. You're in that moment where you're able to also give that moment and cherish it. And I can imagine that really helps you stay grounded.
I noticed that time is different on the stage.
Everything slows down.
Yeah, it slows down, but it's actually going pretty fast.
I know, right? And then before you know it, it's like, where did this go?
Yeah, especially when there's a countdown, when we have a timer. I was like, how is it 5 minutes?
Music, you asked me like how music came in my life and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I feel like I didn't choose it. It chose me. It found me. Music has always been in my family, my brother, my uncle. So growing up, every year at the Greek festival in Ottawa, I would go, like there was thousands of people throughout, the week of the festival. And I was just always astonished at, all the musicians and the sounds and the energy and the passion, and, that sort of, that it exudes like, and I was involved in the Greek dancing at the time as well. So it was just all kind of mixed into me. And then, one day I was doing this play at the Centerpoint Theater, and it was about a young bride. The play in Greek was called Inifi, the bride. And I think I was like 16, and I started playing with my voice and doing trills in the back, in the back room, in the rehearsal room. And one of the guys that plays bouzouki, he was shocked. And I didn't even know what I was doing, but I guess I had tapped into my voice from that point where I didn't even realize I can do, operatic and jazz and then I started, going and I did trainings and coaching and took part in a lot of events in Ottawa, and that led me to Toronto. So yeah, it just somehow, it was like destiny, it just kind of came through and it happened. And I had a lot of people around me that were always a little bit more sometimes than myself. I was always in like a cocoon, like a shell, it was others around me, like family, friends, loved ones, that would push and help inspire me too, come out of my shell. For me, that's kind of where it all started. I went through a lot of anxiety growing up, emotional roller coasters. I don't know if it was hormones or if it's just, natural disposition. I had to find a way to to hone in on the art to help just put aside the voices that weren't serving me. Coming out of a relationship in Ottawa that ultimately led me to find myself here in Toronto. So, and then the rest is history.
The music and the art helped you to deal with your anxiety.
Absolutely.
In a healthy way.
Yeah. And again, having the right people, surrounded by the right people, was just really, what did it. People that ultimately believed in me, people that still to this day are rooting for me and, you know, empowering me and inspiring me. Like, it goes back to, you know, the voices that come in people's minds, you know, like, are you good enough? Is this enough? Is that? And you have to just get beyond all that noise and just create and really cherish your God-given gifts. And
It's like imposter syndrome, right?
yeah, it really just, it was a matter of just saying no to certain things, you know, certain thoughts, and allowing the natural process to come through.
That's the way to go. It's not always easy, but it is. And in my case, the imposter syndrome, thinking that we're not good enough, and if I don't have the right environment around me, I've noticed that it helps me to be more humble in one aspect. The doubts that come in, I see them and I use them as opposed to fighting them sometimes. My intention and I always want to desire is to be more humble about it and just have that calm presence, right? That's what it is that I'm always after, because I just feel better that way, right?
Yeah.
And in regards to the environment, I'm 100%, I believe you, because we need that support system around us, our environment of like our physical environment around us, right? So I'm sure that you have a room with your with your music stuff, right? With your instruments and all that stuff, right? And when you go there, you like that energy is there.
Yeah.
Right? And for example, there was a study done that like somebody that wasn't well, they would wake up in the morning and they would see all their medications and they would see all the things that remind them of being unwell around them, versus somebody that would clear their space. So when they wake up, there was nothing there at all that would remind them of them being sick, but it would only remind them of the things that brought them joy, and they healed quicker.
I love that. It's the mind is just, it's so powerful, more than we know, more than we know.
And very susceptible.
I read somewhere, you know, if you can imagine the impact of your thoughts, you would never think a negative thought again. And that really hit me. So
I'm glad you held on to that. I'm glad you held on to that. If there was an artist or a musician that you would open up for, or that is your hero, or somebody that you really admire and it would be a dream for you to collaborate with, who would that be?
I would say The Weeknd, because he's just done amazing things, and his whole camp grew up. A lot of them grew up in my hometown, and are from there. So I feel like, okay, this just is like a no-brainer. I have to do something with him, right? But then again, I would say Andrea Bocelli. He's still alive. He's still going strong, and I've always had a love for the sound of, you know, the classical crossover, and I sing in Spanish and Latin and Italian and like multilingual, right? So I would definitely love to have a moment to open with Andrea.
Are you listening, universe?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's so cool. They were actually playing Bocelli outside during construction when we were texting earlier. Seriously.
I love it.
Yeah, good. We have Italian neighbors and they were playing that music while they were doing the fences. It was so funny.
Wow. Oh yes. If you hear me loud and clear, you know, I would love to do like a caruso or a besame. Like, oh yes, I would love that.
God willing, one day.
You were questioning about what a message would be for my fans.
Yes.
And for my supporters and fans, I would say, first of all, that I love them. I love you guys. You mean the world to me. You inspire me. And I would say, I would leave them this message to inspire, to uplift, and to always empower one another. There's so much power in that. If each of us would do that day in, day out, the world would be a different place. You know, a lot of people are struggling within themselves. So how can they empower, inspire, and uplift others, right? So it all starts from within yourself. And it's fine if you need help with that. You know, everyone is struggling with something. There's not one person on this planet that is not struggling with one thing or the other. Some might be greater, but we all have something that we're, you know, working on. It's a journey.
That message for your fans was beautiful, because I just felt that in every bone in my body, like heartfelt, because I understand now why environment is so important for you and why empowering other people is so important. Now that message was even more powerful to me because I know the backstory a little bit, right? You know, there's a lot of people out there, including myself sometimes, that have this superhero complex where it's like, I got to do everything myself and I don't need help, but I will struggle. And we don't need to suffer in silence. And some people think that we need to because I don't want to burden anybody with my issues or whatever, or make them worry or anything. But the answer has to be loud and clear nowadays that no, we are all in this together. And that's what the message is, especially now with the global shakeup, is
Yeah,
that it's okay to express yourself. It's okay not to be okay. And there are heroes and warriors and superheroes out there to support each other.
absolutely. You are one amongst them, my friend.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes. But on that note, I mean, in terms of mental health, like my journey in mental health, like I mentioned, you know, growing up dealing with anxiety and depression and these things, I think from a young age, I knew I was hypersensitive to everything around me, noises, you name it. And I just finding how to hone in and work on finding tips and tools went a long way for me, you know? And so I wrote a list down because I wanted to share them. I follow this doctor from somewhere in the States. His name is Dr. Daniel Amen from Amen Clinics. And he's like a psychiatrist and he works on rewiring the brain and brain health and optimization because it all starts from in here. And when this is okay, and when even if maybe we're dealing with something physically, if this is okay, we can surpass beyond, right? So one of the things that when it comes to battling with anxiety, depression, and that sort of thing, even PTSD, I wrote down, you know, a lot of people forget to check for certain things, you know, like one of the things that spoke to me was, you know, you could be anemic, you could be hypoglycemic, you could have hypothyroidism. So the thyroid could be affecting. When you eliminate like artificial dyes and sweeteners and even like an elimination diet, you'll notice a difference, right? Like physiologically. I went on this diet, I eliminated gluten and soy and corn, and you could see right away, I would say like even 30% of the time, and even higher, that there's small things we can do on our everyday practices that can help, right? So even without being medicated, I find that prayer, meditation, you know, sitting for like 5 minutes in silence and just focusing on like a little circular little diamond like sphere in the middle of like your pineal gland. As thoughts come in, you know, you just kind of let them, like you said, you know, like the cars floating by. There's also relaxing exercises, you know, like yoga, tai chi. There's supplements. Like I take tons of supplements, magnesium to be one. Vitamin D is like another huge one. Most Canadians are very low on vitamin D. The sun, it doesn't, you know, penetrate enough, right? So we need those. Omega-3 fatty acids is another. And then the one that I mentioned that helped me tremendously was the killing of the ants, the automatic negative thoughts, right? So finding ways to eliminate these things that just come and cloud our mind that are just, they're just unwelcome, you know, like when you have visitors or guests that are just not welcome, you know, their comments are not serving, their energy is not serving, you know, it has to be in alignment, right? Everything is all about alignment. People that are dealing with like PTSD, even there's this thing called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So that helps a lot with people that are struggling with a lot of trauma. There's so much out there. I would definitely look up Dr. Amen because he's amazing when it comes to tips and techniques on how to navigate through mental health, you know, any sort of anything that you need.
These tips are fantastic. They're definitely relatable. I haven't heard about the eye movement one. EMDR, is it? I haven't
Yeah,
heard about that,
are.
but that's pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah, so I mean, there's so many resources, and then of course, in if you're in Toronto, Canada, there's the CAMH 1-800 number, I believe. I don't know if you want to mention any, but there's definitely a lot to go with.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of different organizations. There's a lot of courses to take so you can be well more informed. And I think that is one of the biggest things is that the more informed we are about mental health and mental illness, the more we're able to not necessarily have to be the superhero to help somebody, but we can at least guide them to where to go. Right. And telling somebody, if somebody has anxiety, for example, or they're depressed, telling them, well, have you tried going for a walk? Of course they have tried going for a walk. Like that's not the solution or that,
No, yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
that's one of many things, right? I mean, the walk could be one thing, but I remember sometimes when I was really struggling, and you're right in the middle of like the epitome of like a panic attack or anxiety attack. And then I remember somebody just said, have you tried, like the same thing, just go for a walk or, do this or do that. And it's like, it's a cumulative, it's a mixture combination of things that you have, that you to do to trigger to help. It's not, you can't just go for a walk and that's it. Yes, the walk does help. But when there's so many thoughts coming in and you don't know what to do with them, that's why I mentioned, a lot of it stems from the thoughts that just are bombarding us, that are not even thoughts that are from us sometimes. They're thoughts that are from even some, I've heard that they can be like ancestral, or, you know what I mean? Like thoughts that are not of us, but from ancestors or from past trauma. So it's really just knowing what to eliminate and, coming full circle with that.
And also being more trauma informed about past traumas and things also trigger those things. And, that's why, telling someone to go for a walk or have you drink some cold water or something, calm down. Why don't you just calm down? Why can't you be happy? Like these things are not informed suggestions, right?
Yeah. No.
At all. And there's work to be done to go down that rabbit hole, so to speak, to see those blind spots in your rear view mirror that need
Yeah.
to be dealt with. And that's what the support systems out there are for. And we're so lucky to have them.
Like I said, CAMH is one of them. I have a 1-800 number. I'll put it in the bio, but it came really handy. I had a friend that needed some help, and since COVID, I use this number now, and you can actually access doctors through a number and just through text, and they will get back to you like within the hour.
There's also the Blue Matter Project. They really inform a lot of people, and there's courses, and they have amazing podcasts. They're great. I took one of their courses.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a group of specialists that come together. Last week, I was on a call with Sunnybrook Foundation. They have a network there. It's a nonprofit, and they did the Race for Kids recently to raise money for that nonprofit. I'm trying to something network. I can't really remember the name at the moment, but
Okay.
these doctors have come together and they've helped so many people, so many, especially youth with mental health.
That's where it starts, right? From the home, from childhood. And then, so maybe we can leave some of those links or some of those just in the bio.
For sure. Yeah, we'll collect them and then leave them for everybody. So tell me something. There is a stigma out there about the tortured artist. That is this idea that like brilliant masterpieces are only created through suffering. And that artists out there in the past have only those suffering. They had to be one of suffering to create something amazing. And what happened is it becomes the normal. So people think that they have to go and be miserable in order to make money or become this amazing artist, which to me, when I'm hearing this, it doesn't even make sense, because now that I understand that this stigma or this false myth even exists, when we create from love as well, I'm sure like there's masterpieces out there that have come from suffering, right? That like we have pain to express it. It's healing to express our pain for sure. Right. And amazing things come with it. I know on stage, I've screamed and shouted, right? I mean, like I expressed what I have not expressed before on stages before. So I get that. But we can also create from a place of love. And the bottom line is that I feel that it just encourages more and more mental health issues that don't need to be present. And as an artist yourself, have you heard of this? And what are your thoughts on this?
This is the first time that specific phrase, the tortured artist syndrome, right, has been used. I kind of have like a little bit of an understanding, not from that phrase. I've heard something in the past similar, where a lot of artists or creatives do suffer, whether it's mental health or whatnot. But I think just naturally, because we're so, art is a very, it's a very open, expressive, and vulnerable state, and so sometimes, as artists, we can be so sensitive, extremely sensitive to ourselves and towards others. I can understand where that can lead to sometimes like imploding on ourselves, or having that sort of the anxiety and the trauma around it. I think as humans, to begin with, it's natural for the human species to understand some form of suffering or another, because there's so much around the world, right? I have dealt with a lot of suffering, and that's one of the reasons why I said I left Ottawa. Like I could not deal with the I'm from there, I was raised there, I was born there, and I left because I was dealing with a very horrible relationship situation, and it was agonizing at the time. So I couldn't stay, like, so yes, so suffering has a way of playing a part in people's lives that shape them or break them or make them who they are today. Like there's so many people I could think of that are super successful and very well known in all industries that have gone through one form of suffering or another. And I think it speaks volumes to be able to say that suffering is there, but it's not okay to be stuck in it, or to be, just not have the resources or the know-hows to get through it, to seek therapy, to work around it, right? I think there's ways to avoid suffering, but I also think that as human beings, unfortunately, it's like, as my father used to put it, we have to go through the grinding stages of like being beat up in the what do you call it, the laundry, how like it beats the clothes up and then they come out sparkling clean. It's growing pains, and that suffering unfortunately has to be there to make us stronger and to make us the people we were meant to be.
And we're definitely not saying that there's not pain out there,
but the difference is recognizing that you do not have to stay in that state of misery and suffering, and that there are resources and there are ways to work around it. Reaching out to people like yourself, myself, and those around, like loved ones, there's ways to work through it. I could not have gone through that time in my life alone if I didn't have loved ones and people supporting. But I also made a lot of decisions myself where that struggle grew me to where I am at this point in my life. So had I not gone through certain, struggles and tribulations, again, I don't think any of us would be who we are today without those struggles. They were all kind of put as trials and tribulations to make us stronger.
We may have different stories, but it's still similar in the way that, like, there's no question whatsoever that I don't regret what I've gone through in my past, like, and how hard it's been and sometimes still is, dealing with, a disability and all that stuff. But I wouldn't have met the people that I met today, just to start, right? And the things that I'm able to do. I mean, like,
you are special and you are whole as you are. And it's destiny that you have been able to come to this point and to meet the people and be surrounded by, such love and such praise.
We've touched on so many different amazing things here. I think environment and the ants, I love that acronym. is just that those are the biggest takeaways that I've got from this conversation. And, it's just
And
so.
remember, the way to remember the ants is it's not the ants in your pants. It's the ants up here.
I love it. And this is so helpful, like especially all the tools and techniques that you went through about, how to deal with different aspects of mental health in a healthy way, dealing with all those things. And definitely like it's so important for us to reach out nowadays, especially, and not to suffer in silence and to know that there is so much support out there.
With that said, the
Yes.
event that we talk about, do you want to start on it?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is like with all those tools and all that, everything that we've gone through about mental health and all these tools and our environment and all that stuff comes down to one thing, and that's this Thursday night. We are having an event that is definitely special to our hearts, and we're just going to bring everybody together. And you're taking a stand for your father. You're going through a really tough time right now, and you're really going to be honoring him on that stage. And I cannot wait to see you perform with all your heart and soul, because I know that like we're not going to want it to end. And yeah, if there's anything you would like to say to anybody who's thinking about.
Thank you so much, Warren, for tonight. I think it is so important to collectively come together as a community in all communities. And like Warren was saying, know that you're not alone, that there are people and resources and community around you to support and to be there. And I think that, again, surrounding yourself with that environment, come on out on the 22nd of September. I'm going to be sharing my heart with you all. I'm going to, through music, be lighting the stage up with my fellow performing friends. And I am just really looking forward to hearing the voice of Warren uplift us all as well. So if you don't have anywhere to be and you're at home, come on out. And it's at the Mississauga Celebration Square Amphitheater. So we'll see you there.
I'll see you guys there as well. And we're so excited. We'll talk to you soon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. And we'll see you soon.